Got some stuff up here. Got some video game up here.
I have some sleep over here.
Hi there. Oh, where is it?
I don't know.
There it is. There's my hand. I just gotta put it right next to my face. I'm Dustin. Or I guess I could move my face, like if I... you can just like... Hello there. There's not a ton of room. Obviously that was intentional, but there's not a ton of room for my face and my hand on screen at once. I'm Dustin. You are not my hand.
No, I'm not.
Or are you? Like, stroke my chin.
Get out of here. Weirdo.
Think of something.
You're a nightmare.
I'm just trying to get the energy level up.
Bro, I have no energy right now. I'm much better than last week.
Trying to pump you up for some video game making.
You haven't been making gingerbread house ornaments for the past 8 hours.
Anyway,
2 days of it.
I have been working on this a little. I did some stuff earlier, but I don't necessarily think we're going to dip into that right now because that stuff was like so. It's in such a state of flux that I think right now we might just go back to some of the stuff we were doing before. Oh, that's up here already. Okay, perfect.
My finger hurts.
Yeah, we've got all this nonsense.
I have a cut. That cut is from a turkey quill.
So yeah, I think we're gonna excuse me. Kick back into here a little bit, which means I think we're probably going to touch 2 little segments of the game, because the stuff I've been working on separately was part of the stuff that'll ultimately set up like our shop and like selecting costumes and in turn having those correspond with some data. So that's some stuff I worked on offline. We're not going to mess with that tonight. What we're going to go back to doing is mess with some of the enemy scripts a little bit, including our enemy controller here, which basically corresponds to just the basic goop enemies. The player controller, which is the script that controls Marta, and any of her projectile scripts to at least try to pass some of this data all the way through the pipeline, essentially. So I think what we'll try to do... Let me go ahead and... Since that's been the format, make another little dock here.
Gross.
It's May now. Gross.
Fact.
All right.
It's gonna
Got this
be
empty
May.
notepad doc. We're gonna do
The past 2 days have kind of been a blur. I don't feel like I've been home at all because I kind of haven't. I also don't feel like I've been like near a computer because I also haven't. It's weird. It's a strange feeling. Oh, easy. Wow. You can do it. I believe in you.
do that.
I'm gonna keep turning ever so slightly.
I
I had to turn myself back. Oh my goodness. Oh. I might be awake. Probably not, but I might be. Jackets are the best that I'm not wearing a sweatshirt. As cold as I am, if I was warmer, I could be more susceptible to sleep. The more my temperature rises, the more I fall asleep. Well documented fact.
Alright, does that all make sense? I think that's what we're going to try to accomplish today. In the next couple hours, hour or two, whatever. So,
Buttons.
First things first. Let's maybe go back over here. Let's go all this stuff, including this other drop spawn. Just gonna look at this for a second and contemplate it.
Great.
That takes that.
I suppose while you do that, I could give some general. I don't remember if I gave an actual explanation
Go for it.
as to my general
Talk
state
while
of
I think.
exhaustion. Yeah, because you're not going to say anything. Yesterday, Wednesday, 1st, I had my first day at the Greenfield Village's pottery shop working as a decorator. For those who don't know, which I mean, it probably is people, because it doesn't seem like a thing because we're so close to it, but Greenfield Village and the Henry Ford Museum of American Innovation are two of the biggest and also just kind of weirdest history attractions in the United States. They're in Dearborn, Michigan, and they're like a big collection of just kind of like everyday stuff, but also like big historical pieces, like stuff ranging from a very large selection of cars to like farming equipment and trains, historic buildings, and presidential memorabilia. I don't know if you consider the chair that Lincoln was shot in and the car that Kennedy was assassinated in as memorabilia, then yes.
Historical artifacts.
Those are all inside in the museum, while I am outside in a fully functioning, I guess you could call it fully functioning, like production pottery shop, where I am decorating pieces that have been thrown on the potter's wheel, but right now I'm just making little like cookie cutter ornaments while I train up my skills that I don't have yet. And yeah, I'm there. Like, I've been there these past 2 days, today and yesterday, and we'll be there tomorrow and the day after, before I get a semblance of a break, because this was my first week, and they just kind of squeezed me in after the first, and then my schedule kind of evens out. But it's fun. It's very different from the other part-time work I've done in the past, which was strictly retail. Like, I was a cashier at a grocery store essentially, and it's a much different atmosphere than I'm much more used to someone coming up and be like, hey, this then that, like, go do this, go on break now, come back, like, or whatever, where this is a little more relaxed, because I've still just got like tasks to do, but I'm not, we have a presenter in the building who is catering to the visitors. Like, they're speaking with them, greeting them, giving them information about the shop, and just kind of like leading them through, like, oh, on this side is where the potters are, and over here is where the decorators are. Whereas me and the other, it's only been one decorator thus far these past 2 days, but I think there's going to be more tomorrow. We're just working. We're right up front by the public, so they'll talk to us and ask questions, and specifically of us and what we're working on, but it's not like we're the show. We're like being shown off as opposed to like being the I don't know how to, like, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. We're displaying a skill as opposed to like putting on a show, I guess you could say. I mean, we're doing that, but we're also like making pieces that have been special ordered or just to be sold.
Artisanal crafting.
Yeah. It's a really different atmosphere that's a lot of fun. And I've really been enjoying it. And not to be horribly self-centered and slightly conceited, but hearing all the young children telling me that I am like a pro and what I'm doing is really good, even though I know as someone who's trying to copy a model, it is not actually very good, and I'm still very much learning. It's been a nice little ego boost. Not gonna lie. Yes, day 2 did go well. Did a lot of the same stuff. More gingerbread ornaments. I would say some of them are looking better. I have been told they're looking better, even though I cut some of them a little thick. I need to better roll out the clay before I cut it, because I'm making them too big. But my line work is getting better. I'm keeping them even, following the design. I need to center the door more, because it's always more to the left, and then it's not even. But I got the windows down better today. That was good. Those were really giving me a hard time yesterday. I made so many more than yesterday. Because I was also being told, like, showing around the shop and stuff. Let's see if I can. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 yesterday. Compared to. Is that the whole? It's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11, 12, 13. Yeah, I can't count those stacks. Not like this. Probably close to like 3 times as much, maybe. No physical items, because that's literally all I was doing today. Whereas yesterday I was, like I said, being shown around, explained a bunch of different things. I did a lot of work with stupid turkey quills to put them in the stupid little bulbs to squeeze out the slip. But I didn't have to do any of that today because I already made them yesterday. But that was like multiple hours of choosing feathers, sanding them down, shoving them into the little rubber, plastic, whatever things are, and then not getting them in, and then cutting my finger on one of them. But today was just more of that. And I was just kind of like left to my own devices, essentially, because it's not that involved of a process. Unlike the bigger pieces that are thrown by potters, I'm getting the clay, preparing it, using like basically a very fancy cookie cutter that the tin shop makes for us, and punching out these ornaments and then decorating them. But I'm assuming these next 2 days are going to be more of that, which is fine because I need to get better. But it's fun. It's a lot of fun. They're all very nice too. It's a fun little shop. Now what are you doing?
God damn it.
That, okay. Great. Fantastic.
Why is it so mad at... I don't know why it's not,
What do you...
Is there something else?
Well, you put spawn there's no R there. You were forgetting the R threshold. That's why it wasn't autofilling in.
Alright, I'm just bad.
Yay!
It's fine.
Come visit me if you're at the pottery shop. It's a lot of fun. They were working on the salt kiln today, which is this big thing that they use for the stoneware, because they add salt to the glaze and it does like weird reactions, so it would pretty much destroy the smaller electric kilns that they use for the red earthware, which is what I've been working with. And it's this big brick thing, and they had to rebuild the door because some of the bricks were corroded. Like I saw some of them, and they were like literally like dissolved in half, kind of. It was wild. So I guess I took apart half of it yesterday, and then today I think they might have actually almost finished rebuilding it. There was like a potter doing stuff, and the other 2 were in the back doing that. But then the third guy was helping relieve the presenter because the presenter relief team was not there because so many people called off because of the flooding. Drive-in yesterday and today was bad. My drive home was slightly better because I avoided the worst of it. Southfield is a parking lot. It's great. Probably make it more orange tomorrow.
I think that makes sense.
Bang, bang. It's supposed to. I heard it was raining a little bit. I could hear the rain coming down. I know it's supposed to rain more, so I'm already concerned. We shall see.
Since we're gonna
Keep moving.
anyway, no, you feel free to talk as much as you want because it's very helpful. But since we're gonna be reusing this in such a way that like that just we're gonna be feeding other stuff into this and probably like the ways that we thought of before, maybe ways that we're not. I just have taken
Body
this
hurts.
more discrete code out of here and made it a little more general.
Never.
So I pulled it onto here where like this whole spawning process can basically take place on you just feed in values and it'll spit it out as opposed to being more hard coded like it was a second ago.
Fantastic.
It's like the more we use it, the more use we get out of it, the more valuable it'll be, and so
That's a
we'll
lie.
see.
It is a bald-faced
It'll
lie.
either be a little or a lot good, but
Never.
either way,
None good.
after I'm done refactoring this, what I'm about to add, it'll just be simpler to do that.
Adding
So,
panic.
nope, that's not even close to what I
Great.
typed.
Do you want me to keep rambling, or are you?
If you want to, go for it.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you had more to say.
No, I'll go on when I'm finished typing this up here. But,
Okay. Just that else if or more?
So I'm just gonna do.
Oh, actually,
Oh. We don't even really need the check on this last one because it's going to be the last one of this string here. This is going to be the same. Actually, in fact, we want this to be gone now. Then we need to change these. That first one, health on a 3, shield on a 2, and on a 4. What is it actually called?
Mm.
Ammo.
Stamina.
So this one we actually want. Since
I
that
have
one had
no
another
real
check.
consciousness right now. I'm a mess. If I thought my body hurt from 2 hours of art streams, I'm very sore. Not very sore, mildly sore all over. Just from sitting A, hunched over a table, and B, kind of rigidly because I don't want, like, I'm doing very slow, like my hand has to basically be at a constant pressure around this bulb to keep the slip coming out evenly, and so I just kind of like set the rest of my body very stiffly, and that's not good for my posture. So like my legs hurt a little bit. It is basically an 8-hour art stream. Granted, it's like hour and 6 hours and 40 minutes is technically my like on the clock time. Because I'm still on the clock. I have half hour of that is not paid, but the rest of that, I get 2 20-minute breaks, and we normally roll our first break into lunch, so I get a longer lunch. And then I get 20 minutes later in the day to just kind of like, I've been sitting outside behind the pottery shop on this little patio we have that's like shaded and away from the rest of the village, so I'm not in plain sight. I'm just getting outside for a little bit.
Okay.
It's nice.
Lorraine, I just want you to kind of double check me here. Does this all make sense to you? What I've done here? At least in terms of like making sure all the values and stuff are copied correctly.
What is what is the base drop? I don't know what that.
So this is just to see if something is dropped at all.
Okay.
So this is the function I built to offload that code. So it'll just has something spawned? No. It takes the ranges that we're going to feed into here.
Okay.
It takes the threshold to where it'll actually like determine and in fact that's an equal, so you might even want to you might have to make two of these, or because these ones you had were exact, which is fine, but I might even just want to make a copy of this that's a little different. How do I want to do it? What way do I want to be lazy?
Do you need my help with that being lazy, or are you just being not lazy on your own? I don't know what I'm saying.
Just not the double equals. That's not out there.
You don't want the equals there at all, right?
So this is one of the things I was trying to do before.
Oh God, you're doing that again.
It's a shitty lazy shortcut to making function overloads, basically. So I'm gonna copy this, and I'm gonna do another.
One of the things I did do before I left, so I was running out of room on my table for those stupid ornaments because I was just leaving them out to dry. Because apparently they have to be like super dry before they can be actively recycled into the clay. They essentially have to dry the same amount they would were they going to be fired. So that's like a week. These houses are going to sit. And they're taking up a lot of space because, like I said, I've got I think close to 40 or something of them now. The tables aren't that big, and I liked having them out to show people as I was working. Like I had some from yesterday, so they were a lot drier than the ones I had been working on today. Even and then over the course of the day, they were drying certain degrees or whatever. So I got to take up a bunch of them. I just put them in a bowl, and now they're just sitting on the other side of the pottery shop waiting to die.
All right, let me show you something, Lorraine, and then I'll kind of go over this all again, and I'll fill in the comments and stuff here, so this is all actually described well. But so the idea with this stupid C# thing is this basically makes this an optional parameter with a default value. So you can call this function without passing this last bool, and if you do, it's just going to take a false value every time you call it that way. So for example, these calls up here, they don't include it. So you can read that as when this call is made, it's passing in 0, 5, 3, this game object reference, and a false because it didn't declare a different value otherwise in the call. You can also this is just pointless.
Glass.
But if you want to change that value, you just actually add it
No.
to the end of the call or whatever. Anyway, that'll make it so these worked exactly the way you had them coded before, and then when we do the new ones, or just if we want to do it a different way, we can do that. But anyway, so these are going to try to spawn a thing based on min value, max value, threshold value, basically. health drop, and then that last parameter is, does the RNG value have to equal this value, or is it going to be like less than or equal, which will be the like.
Are you asking me this right now, or is this
No,
hypothetical?
I'm just describing it.
Okay.
But I'm saying, does that make sense?
I think so.
Okay. Because you had them checking exactly, which is basically just changes the range. Like, there's a couple different ways you can do that to, like, modify the rate at which stuff would spawn. But, yeah, that's fine. Based on how you already had it coded, we'll do it that way and go from there. So we're going to do that. This call will try to spawn a thing, and it'll just return a true or false. True if it spawned something, false if it didn't. If it didn't spawn a thing, we're just going to call it again and pass slightly different values and a different game object that it's going to spawn. And again, if it didn't do it, in this case, we have this alt weapon check too, because you had that before also in this other code that I commented out. Then it'll do it one more time with, again, slightly different values. And in fact, the way you had this coded before
was great and doesn't need to be changed. I know.
No, now that I'm looking at it, I want to reread it again. Yeah, none of this actually makes a difference in terms of which values they are, right?
Whom?
So, like, this is the way you had it set up originally.
Yes.
I'm not sure if you intended it for this, but basically, the way I read this, and again, now check me if I'm wrong, is each of these has a 25% chance to drop.
Sure.
No matter what the number is, right?
What do you mean what the number is?
Because, like, these have different... Like, see, these values are different.
Yes.
But I don't think it matters that they're different.
I mean, that wasn't really the point. It was just have something dropped. There was never a weight to them.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying what you really could do is,
It was just so something would spawn some of the times or not at all. There was never meant to be weight. Those were just literally numbers I pulled out of my butt.
Because the zero's included. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's a 20%, right?
What?
Now I'm just thinking. Because we probably don't need that other thing then. That's what I'm thinking. Just want to make sure the rates are correct. So I can move this over in my mind.
Oh dear.
Yeah, it would just be either this or if you want it to be exactly the same, right? Or because basically, how often do you want a thing to spawn theoretically?
It doesn't matter. I think the rate that it was dropping it now was fine. It could
because the other thing about now that I'm looking at this and I'm thinking again.
Oh dear, he's thinking again.
Lordy,
he's 40.
The way you have this currently set up, I did change it a little bit technically, because the total odds that something will spawn are basically like a little over 50%, right? If this can spit out a 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4. And you're dropping something on either a 2, a 3, or a 4, you know, that's, I guess, exactly 60%. Which the way I've changed it will not necessarily be that. Alright, I think what I'm going to do, and this should produce similarly statistical results, is I'm just going to... In fact, stuff might actually spawn slightly more frequently, which maybe I'm okay with. We can tweak it after the fact if we want to. I'll still leave that code commented out up there just so we have it in case we want to revert any of this shit. But yeah, I'm just going to get rid of all this for now. since we're going to call this basically 3 times, at least, we'll do that. And I'll just leave that there for now, like I said. And I'm just going to change these all to 2 for right now, because now it's slightly different, right? So basically what will happen is this is a roll from 0 to 4 or whatever, or like again, if it makes sense, we could do whatever. It's fine. 0 is fine. Who cares? And then yeah, actually we would want the 1 if we wanted it to be exactly. No, we want the 2 because we want it to be like 60% each. That's fine. So this is going to be 1 die roll that like 3 out of the 5 numbers that it can spawn will make it successful, and then 2 more die rolls that do the exact same thing. Does that make sense? So like this is going to run and it's going to spit out 0 to 4. And the way I have this coded now is if it's basically we're passing in that 2 here in this instance. So if the thing that it chooses is 2 or lower, 2, 1, 0, it'll spawn a thing. If it's 3 or 4, it won't.
Okay.
And then it'll just check that 1 more time for each type of thing. Also technically make these spawn in this priority like a little more likely, which maybe we don't want to do that either. I don't know. Because since health is going to always roll first, it'll always have the chance to spawn first.
Uh-huh.
Do we want that to be the case or not?
Yeah. I mean, we'll probably just have to play it and see how that unfolds, honestly. Because that's a fairly simple numbers, like, tweak, right?
Kinda. Or we could change the sequencing, or...
Well, yeah, I mean, it's 1 or 2 lines switched around.
Yeah, I mean, it's not... I'm just thinking out loud right now if we want to change it immediately or just kind of leave it for the moment and see what happens. I guess just leave it for the moment. We can play it a little bit and see how it seems to shake out. Alright, I'm going to leave this as is for the moment. I'm going to fill...
I don't think you actually built it. Maybe you
Let
did?
me get rid of this too. Just let it rebuild this whole thing.
Included in die! I know it's the die you're talking about, but it sounds funny in my head when I say it that way. You're making this so fancy looking and official, it's stressing me out. Toip! Toip!
Change these two.
Toip, 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 toip. One of the funny things that the one presenter included in his spiel today was mentioning that, quote unquote, everyone in the pottery shop went to school for this kind of stuff, and I'm just sitting there fucking snickering, 'cause it's like, sweetie, I didn't. I'm a goddamn engineer over here. I code, and I'm here making the pretty things on the whatever. I thought it was funny. And it's the same thing with like the I don't remember if I'd mentioned on here. I might have been in here. I don't remember who I talked to anymore, or who I said to where. Whatever, I don't care. Where it's just like I just feel like a literal like I feel like a fraud somewhat, or just like an outsider because it's like. I mean, a lot of these people. I mean, the people who are like the master decorators or potters or whatever, like obviously like this is their life, like this is just what they do, which cool, like that's super incredible, and that's obviously not where I'm going to go with this, but just the fact that I'm here now and like this isn't like my
Okay, got all that shit going.
This isn't like my wheelhouse, my field or anything. And it's just like I'm here now and people seem to like what I'm doing. I just feel like an imposter. That's all. More of an imposter than usual.
Shut this shit down for a while. Check for spawn there, check for spawn there. Okay. And these actually are gonna maybe be a little different now too.
Spawn the thing you do.
That one's for gunk. This one's for enemies. So we really just want this to be and then we want to call our other thing. So do let's add that up there before. Because I don't even maybe necessarily need this check. I'm just thinking
Cash it.
like it would function either way. I'll put that here instead, just to like. I doubt it'll matter. This is the kind of shit that I like. Oh, I feel like what keeps me up at night, pointlessly. It is stupid horse shit like this, where it almost certainly doesn't matter if we run this every time. But in the interest of reducing the load by a fraction of a frame or whatever. We're just gonna do oh. Why are you still what is not why is this so bad? Why am I so bad? Why is everything so bad? There. Spawn a thing is false. The threshold has to be greater than 0, otherwise it's not even going to run, and then it'll return if a thing is spawned. And then we absolutely don't need to worry about this in here. Get rid of a lot of code in here, so it's just going to be down here, I think is where I started. Yeah. And game object to spawn. This is the shield one. Though, what's our sequencing up here? Just to double check. Health ammo coin. Shield health ammo coin. This also doesn't matter, but I'm going to double check. These are health shield ammo. Health was goes first in that one. So I'm just going to make these uniform just because I can.
Boo.
Nope. Again, this really functionally doesn't make any difference whatsoever, but since that was the sequence we used above, I guess I'll repeat it. Health, shield, ammo, and then coins, since the other thing doesn't do coins at all. Same thing over here. Put health on top, just for... and then this is still going to be shield drop. Boop. And we don't need any of these anymore. Yeah, I'm going to say we don't need any of these ifs really. We just need. I'm going to salvage you and you. So that'll be a little cleaner than it might have been otherwise, I think. Get rid of this. Gonna get rid of all of this. What on earth are you mad about? Okay.
There's no
Make a little note up here.
Notes. I keep turning. I need to stop turning. There we go. I'm assuming they're not all supposed to say shield drop at the end?
No, that's
Okay.
the last thing that I'm going to fix.
Just making sure.
In this one, we don't have a reference to coins, so I'm actually going to comment this one out for now.
Yes. I'd probably want to make it a different looking coin. So like a new coin.
Yeah, we'll make a specific coin
enemy coin.
and then store it, and then we'll put that reference here when we
Yeah.
got it. But for right now, this
I
is
think we
fine.
did talk about that earlier.
Yeah, we mentioned it last week. Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, so look at all that code we saved.
Wow.
By
Think of the savings.
offloading most of that logic into here, sort of.
Heck.
So yeah, this is just going to do that every time.
Can you
so
please X out that yellow bar because it's really causing me anxiety.
Oh, this.
That yellow
You
bar.
meant like the compile,
No.
like yellow
No.
highlight on the edge. Sorry.
No, it was the something. I don't even know what that thing was.
So yeah, it's just going to call this every time. The default value for any of these values should always be 0. So anytime it's going to call in there, if it is a 0, it's just going to do nothing each time, and then we'll move on to the next one. So we just boop boop boop, and we'll roll the dice, spawn a thing. If we might have to. This is a thing I might address somewhere else, some other places in the project too, but I might make this position thing a little different, like as opposed to just spawning on top of the spot where the thing was. I might like make something that changes this value slightly, so just it like puts it a little bit off center, but maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. Sometimes just piling shit onto other shit is okay, and sometimes it's less fine.
That's fine.
But anyway, so does this make sense to you, Lorraine? Does this all check out? I'm gonna get rid of this. So yeah, we're just taking our like container structure that has all that information in it. And we're basically just like passing these hard-coded values into here from 1 to 100 basically. That's what we've kind of annotated up here.
Yeah, that was kind of the...
And these values will all just be from 1 to 100 just because it's very easy to decide if a thing spawns 100% of the time or...
0%.
This isn't right actually, is it? Even though I didn't... Is that it? I've done that plenty of times myself. I'm going to leave it. I don't care. Typos are fine.
Well, if it's already in there like that.
Yeah. You would be surprised how much... almost always on the front end these things get fixed. Like when I'm typing out like when it's like stuff that'll... I'm not talking about our work here. I'm talking about work. Like if I misspell a word in like an email...
No, that is the wrong...
It's IE.
The drop
right?
one is right. Get enemy shield drop is right. The shield drop item is wrong.
Yes, that's fine. Like I said, this one is older, so.
My variable's older.
But I do that like the amount of times I've misspelled real words in variables and like real work stuff, and they've got it left is above 0. Because again, it's like that's the kind of stuff that slips with the cracks. Like if it's a front end thing where it's like copy on a web page or whatever. That stuff almost always gets caught either immediately or like very soon if it somehow slips through to like production or something. But I have absolutely submitted code that got approved and deployed where the code itself had like misspelled words in it.
Yeah, but who cares about that?
And it doesn't really matter, but it's funny. But then I've noticed it later, like going back to those websites and being like, oh, I don't think that's actually correct. But anyway, that's why I'm not going to fix it now because it doesn't really matter and I don't care. So yeah, we've done that, and then similarly, these are for the gunk ones. I should be able to just do the exact same fucking thing. So I'm gonna grab all this, including this comment.
Wouldn't you want the if too?
Yes, but that's already in there.
Oh, it's another. Okay. I couldn't remember if this was going into another function. If you were building another function from scratch. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, yeah. And
actually, I could just like since again when these were different, it maybe made more sense to do this. Now it might be a little redundant because I could just call one of these either way. This is it's another very minor like.
Were we gonna? Is there a chance that we could make the gunk spawns technically different?
I'll leave them separate for now.
Because there could be a costume that just gives you more from those and.
Yeah, but that'll still work the same way because the idea there would be the numbers will be different. Like the numbers for the enemies, these are separate variables, will all be zeroed out, and the numbers for the gunks, these are their own variables, will be higher. I'll leave it this way for now. It at least makes sense on paper. Like visually, it makes sense. This is the kind of stuff like it's just better to pick a lane and
never
run with it. Either one is functionally. I don't want to actually delete that stuff yet.
All of traffic.
Bring it back. Because I want to copy.
Be a nuisance. Be a nuisance.
I want to copy you.
Never. I won't allow it.
Oop.
Beep.
I want to copy you. Oop.
There's 2 G's there. Parentheses.
Thank you. Now you're all this shit.
Oh my. No.
Okay. All right. So that should be that.
Fantastic.
And so, with all that in mind, I think we're ready to move on to some combination of this, and I think this is the one that controls the basic bubbles. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna do and this already has like a it has one of these already. Perfect. And if we go to the player, Lorraine, now this is where I need to pick your brain. Do you have any idea where in this code, is it in the smarter script somewhere, that those bubbles are actually spawned? Like, where do they become instantiated?
So, I believe there is an object that is basically positioned in near her head that actually does the spawning. She does not do it. I can't think of what it's called. It probably has the input taker on it, so it's you're probably not going to find a reference to it in the script. I think it is completely separate.
This does too, and no two. This is a class that I wrote ages ago. No two of these can be active at once, so.
Then maybe it's on her somewhere. There is a spawn point for it. What is the? I can't see all the code because of that freaking thing. I can go on. There should be something. Something's doing it. I don't know why. Where? Check. You should just check her object.
Let's drag one of the scene for now. Not sure if any of these are.
It'd be a child.
That one's old. This one's not old.
Projectile spawn point. Does have the input taker.
Character input update. Interesting. That's. I wonder. Maybe that works fine. I did not necessarily design this such that like you would have more than one active at a single time. But if you've had it working all this time and it works, maybe it's okay.
I have.
Because the idea behind this was always that it would pass control from one thing to another. Like there's functions built in here to like, where you can from an input taker object call a different one, which will simultaneously activate the new one to start like querying what people are doing with your button presses and deactivate the other one. That's interesting. Well, I'm maybe not gonna fuck with it for right now, if ever. But that is definitely not. I didn't like build it with the knowledge that that it might be used that way. I guess it's fine because it's ultimately just stuff that goes into those update loops. Whatever. Although this might give like if you try to do stuff like pausing the game and stuff like that, that might get complicated very quickly, because that was also part of the reason that was, especially if you like float into menus or whatever, that was the whole point of building it that way, was that you would know that no other inputs would be taken on another object if you were in an object that was monopolizing your inputs. We'll see. What?
No,
just correcting.
Course correcting.
All right.
Forcibly moving myself off course.
Well, in that case,
by dancing guiltily.
Now I have another question. Where is the current where, if anywhere, is a reference currently stored that tells what costume Marta's currently wearing? Is it in here?
There's a script. I believe it might be on.
Because there's kind of this.
That's in there somewhere.
I feel like I might want to extend this to do whatever it does right now, plus the other thing.
Well, and you want the player costume controller script.
Costume name.
No.
I was saying, so this is, what is this used for right now, if anything? Does it even do anything else in here? Nope, I don't want to search for gunk. That's why I control F to this. I don't know why it's fucking... What? Huh? Excuse me? Copy.
Gunk.
Paste.
Damn it, I wish it said gunk.
Current document. So I guess you were sort of using that for something.
Yeah,
But all I need, so this is enough for me right now. And because again, I'm going to do as much of this as I can in the laziest way possible. So let's go over to laziest but most functional.
Damn.
That's the caveat, is I want it to be as good as it can be while not taking years. So player scripts, the player controller's in here. Projectile pickup.
Controller's also there.
I'm gonna put. Let's make a new. Nope. Should I leave it that, or just make it like player costume data? This is going to be inherited by the player controller.
That's probably fine.
Alright, I'm going to go with that. And then
Do
this
you want to look at the costume controller?
No, because here's the thing. Since that code, however it works, is already kind of up and working and is basically unrelated to the gameplay relevant data we're going to store also, I'm just going to leave them entirely separate. So this is going to have to inherit from input taker, because ultimately this has to inherit from input taker. It's going to now inherit from this. So I'll move them this way so that the sequence makes more sense in my editor here.
Editor.
And then in here...
Panic!
I don't think we're going to keep any of this stuff. I don't think we need a starter and update in here. I think that's stupid. But we are going to at least start with...
Start.
Wait for now.
Start.
Just going to...
There you go. You did it. Woo! Woo!
Nope.
Cost name. Costco name.
And then... Basically, this is going to get called after the costume is picked, based on the code that already picks the costumes. Because again, that doesn't. If it has worked before, I don't know if it's working in this build currently, but we've had versions of the game where that shit already works. So I'm not going to fuck with it because I don't really need to fuck with it. And they all have a unique names, right?
Yes.
So that's all I need, because all I need is an identifier that determines which one is unique from any of the others. So then, after a costume is picked, we'll call this back up here. In fact, we can add that right now, probably. And that happens here, right? So we can just immediately go...
I believe the value costume name is found after that, so I would put your call after
Here.
get some clothes on.
Alright. And I think that's that. In terms of, I think that's really as deep as we need to go with it for certain costumes. And then we'll just have a big, again, could be a switch, could be a bunch of ifs. I almost always lean ifs for some reason. I think it just, the way that looks pleases me. It doesn't really matter. It's not really different.
Case, whatever, colon, something or other. I don't remember how switches work.
And we'll just have as many of these as we need, and then in fact, we'll go ahead and set one of these up. I'm just going to put that right now, and in fact, let's go ahead and test it.
I did messing with their stuff.
Is this ain't right? I'll double check and make sure.
No, it's not. It was
No,
text.
no. Okay, perfect. So that's
Time for testing.
so that's that. And then what else do we need here? I'm gonna also do a. I think you can do this. Let's find out. I think these are basically just set up with a really complicated initializer, right?
What?
Yeah. Let's just.
Gross.
It's not pretty, but it'll get the job done. And then, well, okay. Because this one has that projectile type, whatever. So that, the way I set that up might need to think about that. Or, because, yeah, I can make more than one. That's fine.
That's a lie.
It's also ugly.
Only one. Only ever one. No more.
Because, yeah, that was the idea. All right, we're going to do two.
He's spouting nonsense and untruths.
Gonna do that. And we're going to do... that. Now I just want to decide if I want to, how I want to do this exactly. Because I feel like, for simplicity's sake, well, I don't know, there's no perfect way. I'm going to get rid of these. I'm more confident than ever that we'll never call a starter an update in here.
Coward.
Just looking and thinking. Excuse me. Okay, yeah, I was a little slightly wrong.
Yes.
I want, this is what I actually want. Yep. And then for future editing purposes, again, I'm not proud of it, but I think I can live with yeah, this is fine. In fact, we can maybe simplify some of this stuff out here too. But for right now, we'll just take it all. I'm gonna make these. Just to make them different so that things make as much sense as they can. Checks out to me. And then we'll do a shut the fuck up. Just shut up. Seriously, not gonna. Is it because it's upset about all this other shit, or? Did I not code that constructor right? Yeah, I might not. One second. Just because I didn't.
Doing what?
It's probably that was me. Which was pretty dumb, I'm gonna be honest. Yeah, I think I got it that time. I'm just stupid. Okay, perfect. I'm average stupid, not extra stupid. Okay.
Average stupid.
And quite honestly, I'm just gonna. This shit should all be in the right order. So I'm gonna fucking. Nope, stop it.
That's gonna be gross.
I'm gonna fucking paste it
Ugh.
in here. It's fine. I'm gonna fix it. Oh my god, shut up. I don't need to be.
What have you done?
Close that.
What have you done?
Select all of this. Then we need to go. There. And then we need to go. Let's go with. And we need to go. Alright, look at that. I'll just looks it a little better, although it's still ugly and dumb. But I've come to terms with that.
Read that comment. Dumb. Dumb. Please put that comma on the other line.
I'll fix it.
Please. It's hurting me.
Let me get there.
They're both hurting me. I'm being physically injured right now. Semicolon. Semicolon. Oh, Christ.
I mean, that's gonna bother me. Like I said, it's ugly either way. But
This is what you've done. When you realize that your actions have consequences. When you are.
oh, this is what I want.
Oh, it's so bad.
And then these actually are. It's always going to be that. This one's going to be based on. I'm going to actually change the name of this to. And then this will have to be its own. Just go in here. Nope. This might have to come from somewhere else or something. This is the part that's going to be maybe a little more involved. It's also contingent on us changing the special weapons so that they can only be changed in those special levels, not on the fly within the game. Otherwise, I just have to code it differently to check, which is be a huge pain in the butt.
But. Enum's giving me a fucking headache. Strux or whatever you're even doing.
Why?
I'm not sure. You're a nightmare.
Why?
Look at that function or whatever that thing is.
I agree that this is terrible. I'm not a fan, but wouldn't often do something like this. But like I said, I'm at a very unique crossroads where we're at on this game, where I want it to be, like I said, just the correct ratio of good to
Fast
easy.
And dirty.
Yeah. So this is maybe more on the easy side and less on the good side. But
it's not a good. I can assure you of that. This is why I don't go into Cucumber's code, because it's all this. It's just
no, it's not. It's not all this. That's cruel. Don't be rude. And then, yeah, this is also going to be, like, super ugly, but it's fine. Whatever. Because each of these is going to be looking gnarly as shit.
Oh, God. Like oh, Christ.
But it
what
is easy.
Doing? When will you learn? I need to find that vine now. Here we go. I don't think I've ever seen this. Is like a weird full extended version of it. I'll have to actually watch it with the sound on later. Because I've only seen part of it.
Oh, I didn't mean to replace it with that.
You gotta get rid of the semicolons too.
Yeah. I fucked that up the first time.
No, you wanted that.
God damn it. I don't want that extra spaces here either. Whoops. Too far. There. Let me just shut the fuck up.
Never.
Okay. And for tonight, let's see if we can manage to get to that point, which we just might before we clock out of here. I'm gonna leave those as is. We'll leave that as is. These are the ones I'm gonna do. Let's just do this one, and everything else can be 0 for right now. So. So, for our test, if we can get this all to flow through to the projectiles that Marta spawns, what should happen is that, since this is hard-coded, this will always just trigger, it's going to set all these values and then set the shit up. Which should then be passed on to the projectiles. And whenever a goop enemy dies, because that's the only one we've... Well, it might work on all of them now, actually. But anyway, at minimum, whenever a goop enemy dies, there, in addition to the regular roll of it might spawn something, there should also be... And actually, let's just go all out.
Oh dear,
right now.
we're going all out.
Shush.
Oh heck! Batten down the hatches.
Let's just make this 100.
Things are getting real.
Alright, there should be 100% chance that it will spawn an extra shield drop in addition to maybe spawning a different drop. And maybe spawning one other, either shield or health in this case, because I don't think you will have a weapon equipped by default either.
Nope.
Okay, so I've done all this. We've got up here. We've got a call that sets that shit up. And then now we need to find where those projectiles come out, which is
Projectile control.
here.
Oh dear.
And that is just childed to her, is that right?
Yep.
How do I want to do that? Do it the lazy way, lazy-ish way.
Oh no!
Or should I can leave it all in code, I guess, right? Right?
I don't know what you're trying to do now.
I guess I'll put it all the way at the top. Might not even need to be protected. We're both protected for right now. Oh, it is just projectile controller. I'll go ahead and make another thing here too. Let's go. Just to keep at least that separate.
They probably all come out of the same spot.
Oops.
Do a little poking around.
There. Should be only one of those, right? One projectile controller and her children.
Yes.
Okay. And
Scripts.
start here. We got an update here. Let's just add it up here. I guess that's fine. Or no, I already have it, right? No, I don't. It's not on here.
I think that. Oh yeah.
Which maybe actually, because that's the whole.
Oh man, you're gonna fucking hate me when you start with the alt weapon stuff.
I know. I already was not super pleased about it, honestly.
Do you know the alt weapon spawn controller, which is also attached to that same object, also inherits from the input taker
that does
class?
all right. So that does fuck this up a little bit.
Woo.
So we might need to forgo some of this shit.
I'm terrible. It's my fault.
Are those, do you know if is that how all of these work? Do they all take separate inputs?
Man, I don't know. Probably.
Because if I knew that they, as the intent was to have. No, this is fine. This is fine. This is fine. This is fine. I'm not gonna worry about that.
What if?
It's fine. Don't worry about it, because this can still go on individual instances of projectiles, but it won't go on the controller. Because who cares? I don't care.
Well, you don't want it on the controller anyway, because the controller doesn't have a.
I'm just I was just re-going.
I mean, a way that we could make this better.
No, it's fine.
No, listen to me for like half a second. We could go a little deeper, maybe in some inheritances or whatever, and add the functionality for her to actually shoot stuff and then just call those other objects, like the projectile controller and the alt weapon spawn controller, which do the same thing but for the different weapons.
Maybe.
If you don't want them to be as bad as they already are.
Like I said, it's all about the math. Good versus easy, so we'll land somewhere in the middle of there. So this is where the bullets get instantiated.
Yes.
So after all that shit,
maybe there's a reason I've become a potter to her.
all right, now this is just a fucking. This is a trip here, or is this because they're like separate parts of the object? Because you have this as a rigid body, and then you're like getting a rigid body within it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
That seems very weird.
This is some of the oldest code in here. Like, her shooting is very old.
Well, again, I'm gonna, for right now, just totally ignore it. And go. Because this doesn't even. Interesting. I didn't even know there was an instantiate that could return anything other than just like a game object, but I guess this does. That's so weird to me. I'm gonna roll with it. Whatever.
This was written like 5 years ago, man. Leave me alone.
So, bullet instance. Where is the game object reference? Is it projectile?
Yes. No, it's also rigid body.
What the fuck?
It's probably, so that's probably on it. Just go out. Yeah. That's just the thing.
That makes no sense to me whatsoever. That is so odd. Like maybe the engine just like figures out the reference for you after that or something.
I mean, you can cast and instantiate. I know
I
that.
guess so.
I think I've done it before.
Because there's
Not
no
that
like
bad.
this has a rigid body, but there's not like there's no way to just store a rigid body.
Yeah, you can.
Like not separate from a game object. That's the why it's so odd.
They don't know shit.
Like, that makes fucking negative sense.
I know nothing. There is clearly there is a well-logicked and very smart reason for me to start decorating pottery.
I'm lost now. It's here.
Same.
I don't know if it matters. I guess I'm just going to put it above here, just because I can. What's
Over
that
here
function
getting
called?
dragged.
Not that. It's not like a personal thing. It's just literally I don't understand how it works, but
Yeah,
that's
no.
fine because I guess it's working.
It's been working since like day heck on. There's a dot after that projectile movement.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
gonna go back there. I'm gonna go here. And what I really mean is I'm gonna go here. In fact, I don't think this actually needs to be public anymore, if it ever was, if it ever did, but this needs to be public.
Does it though?
And if I set this to private or let's see what that does.
Set it to bots.
So I made all those other functions so it wouldn't really have to be exposed.
Expose it.
You're just mad about this.
Yes.
Okay. That's the one. What did I call it up there? It's just. Oh,
Did you even make a thing?
it's this.
Oh, alright, there you go. See, look right there. As rigid body.
That's why did you do that? That disgusts me.
I cast
Then
it!
you're doing the same
I
thing.
cast it!
But then you're like,
Man, I don't know!
then you're getting the component.
I don't know!
I hate it.
don't know!
I fucking am sickened.
Is it even better? Is it even better that the projectile is also
No.
a rigid body
Like
and
I
not
said-
a game object? Is
like
that
I
just
said,
making
it's-
you even more frustrated?
It's fair. We'll get to my old code. So I did get mad about.
Doubtful. 'Cause it's not public. And made private.
I guess I'll just make it public too. Yeah, that's right, because it has all... That's the way. It's
I don't.
a little confusing, but it's fine.
This is the way we wash our hands.
Sure. Oh.
Bring.
Just want this.
Public.
Yeah, I guess I'll just do it. That's fine. Again. Correct crossroads between lazy and good. That's fine. That's all. What are you? What is?
Just thinking about that. Brian also said chill, so he might want you to wear the hat.
No, he's fine. Here, I'm gonna double hat it.
Great.
You're not. He's not wrong. It's the stupid thing to get upset about. Like I said, I've got code that's at least that stupid. That's also at least that old. So it happens.
The more I think about it, the funnier I fucking find it. Just the rigid body, instantiating a rigid body adds a rigid body.
And then let me think. And I think that's all we need to do, kind of, right? Because I think we've closed the loop.
Have we?
I think so.
Have we?
Because every time we're making one of these, we're passing all the data it needs to know about it.
There was a loop?
No, not a literal loop. We're passing all the data it needs to know about its modifiers, and then those are just stored inside the projectile, and then they're kind of referenced as needed by the enemy scripts upon contact, if any. Yeah, because this will be like on hit, it'll see if the object it hit has one of these attached, which it always will if it's a projectile, because it's part of that hierarchy. And then this is referencing this object itself. If it's a gunk, it'll check for gunk mods. Otherwise, it'll check for enemy mods. And the projectile base is the thing that's being passed in from the other object. I feel like this is going to work. I'm about to be proven wrong, maybe, but I'm pretty sure that... And then we'll run it and see if it fucking bombs out or whatever, too. But I'm pretty sure that it'll go, and it should...
Get Marta out of that scene.
It should spawn a shield every time you kill...
Oh, it's super mad.
It should spawn a shield every time you kill, at minimum, the regular goops, if not all of the enemies.
But not the gunks.
But not the gunks.
That's the gunk.
In fact, since we're... That's a good point. Let's do the opposite. Let's go, player controller... No, what's... this one. Shield enemy modifier 100. Let's go gunk health modifier also 100. Oh, goodbye, hat. Fuck you.
Damn. Damn.
So gunks should always drop a health and maybe something else. And it's fucking really upset about something.
You had the find open.
And just enemies, all or just goop enemies should always drop a shield and maybe something else. Fuck you.
Those are enemies, though.
I don't think it already did a thing. So, and actually, their damage. God damn it. That's due to, I think, other exchanging changes that I have that are why that's not working correctly.
Yeah, those aren't
Nothing
destroyed.
is what has happened.
Everything is broken.
Because those should have gone away, I would have thought. These are just the same warnings. That's interesting. All right. Well, so that might be a totally separate issue that we're going to have to figure out. Let me get rid of all the warnings just so I don't need to... that must be much older.
No, it's just they... It's never assigned a value. Maybe you didn't put it in... Night? I don't know.
Because this one takes the current one. I'm just going to give it, for right now, just so I can get them out of my queue.
Put them in your stack. Put them in your stack.
it's the same thing. I'll just add a value. Oh, that variable also got super fucked. Whatever, I'll fix that later also. I'm just gonna run it again. I'm gonna watch it. So those are at least coming out as expected. None of that seems to be off necessarily. This is just other stuff. That stuff's not great, but whatever.
Dropped a thing. That was not health. Not additional health.
I guess I should add just some debugs too, just out of curiosity to see. Oh, but that's different too, right?
What?
That's a whole nother kettle of fish.
What?
Because the shield, we didn't actually attribute anything to the shield. That is so weird. Huh.
I mean, they're just going to keep shrinking by a fraction forever. Because there's a threshold they normally just reach.
That's fucking so strange.
Did you get rid of their health or something?
I don't know, or like I accidentally made it super high or something. I must have fucked something up somewhere.
I'm assuming since it was affecting both the enemies and the gunk that it has to be on the controller base, right?
I'm not sure. Maybe.
There is a health value.
Okay, so it might have been this.
Are we sure that the projectiles have the projectile attack base on them?
Yeah, they should. Trying to think. I wonder if I would just put this to test some other shit.
I don't remember.
I think I just might have I think this is before I refactored some of the other code, because I think. I'm guessing there won't be anything that doesn't inherit from this that will deal damage to the enemies. So I'm going to ignore this for now, because that's my assumption is that this code might have just been from when this might have functioned differently. So this will basically be saying that, like, all right, if this is a projectile, we're going to take some damage, and then
Yeah. Sounds
And then let me double check here specifically, because it'll have its own version of that. So yeah, that's just going to set the attack state, and then because I feel like what is ultimately going to happen is probably we don't need this check at all. I think.
Unless something has gone like horribly wrong, probably not.
Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this because it isn't doing a call here, and then I'm just going to add this here. I'm going to just assume that there is a state where this could exist for now, and then so that one takes the game object. That one's check death. Check death's the only one we need to check right now anyway. Because the idea here was that just the reason they're not taking damage is because this part is we haven't even scripted this yet. This part is like, because the other types of modifiers that we haven't fucked with are the ones that can change the way enemies take damage.
Yeah.
So this will have its own call at some point, but for right now, we'll just leave it as this. Because the case we were running into before was that they were taking no damage at all.
But so, like, weirdly reacting to it, sort of?
Yeah. Because, like you said, the goops or whatever, they increment themselves to be smaller, but presumably they die after 3 hits or whatever.
Yeah,
like that's just a counter. So if the health number is going down, but they're continuing to make themselves smaller, it was very funny. I'm thinking this will just work, because we did mess with the death stuff, which is actually the thing that should be changed. The damage should not be changed, but we do want them to take damage so they can eventually die.
Bro, same. That's not a mood, I don't know what it is. It died, and it dropped health. They're also dropping health. Should they drop shields? Or were they dropping shields? Is everything just dropping health?
Alright, so something's wrong.
They dropped a shield.
Because, like I said, part of that might just be,
The math could be a little off.
And double check on...
Or it's not actually doing 2.
Yeah, that might be the case. Or they are literally directly on top of each other. Let's try that. Just to do our due diligence here.
Because they don't have rigid bodies on them. They're just like...
Yeah, let's do... Where's that stuff living in here-ish?
I couldn't tell you. I don't remember.
And I'll do a much better version of this later at some point, but the version of this that I'm going to do now is, it's actually in here. Oh God, how do I want to do this quick and dirty just to try it out? The other thing about all this stuff is that, like, I feel like all the scales are really weird.
No.
That's that. So it did only spawn one thing. Alright.
You only one health.
So there's something weird going on.
Yes.
'Cause what's that called, like bowl or something?
What?
This object.
It could just be shield. Shield pickup clone. There you go. It's literally right there.
Oh, that's misspelled too. All right. Well, I'm just gonna do this for a few more minutes then, and then I'm gonna check in on some of this other stuff offline because something is a minimum different because
It's always
it is spawning
something.
something 100% of the time. So it's like it is a start.
Is there a chance that the objects aren't being identified correctly? The enemies versus the gunks? Are you setting those?
It's possible, honestly. That could be part of it.
Because right now they're all taking from the same thing, but I'm not sure if they're
the other thing that's
classified
definitely
as
wrong
such.
is it seems like it's never spawning two things. So
It doesn't seem to be spawning two things. Not from one kill.
And that one didn't
was
spawn
nothing.
anything. So sometimes it is nothing. So this is just going to need further investigation. And I actually might have to revert some of that other stuff to make... yeah. I think I'll check this out offline. I don't think I'm going to agonize about it
I will.
on the internet right this moment. But it is different.
Yes.
And honestly, now that I'm looking at it, I'm thinking maybe even the only thing that's different that's happening is just the other way I refactored the way the base drops work.
Maybe, yeah.
Because like I said, the way that I changed it would make it more likely that drops would spawn in general and would tilt more heavily towards health. So I might have to go back to the way that was before.
Oh, that's right. I had slightly forgotten about that part of it.
So that might be the only thing that's occurring here.
Yeah.
So we'll keep that in mind for now. Yeah, I'll probably just get offline for now, for the moment. I'm gonna... Let's see. I'll commit some of this stuff in a second and then maybe go look at it on my laptop for a second and just mull it over in my head.
Do you want to look at our list again or no?
Yeah, we can do that.
I think most of this got touched.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much all done.
If not
so
completely,
I'm gonna leave all
not
these here for
completely
right
solved,
now,
but
and then do lots of bug testing needed, and need to separately. Okay, I think that's accurate. Okay. Alright. I can live with that for now. That's where we'll leave this for the moment. So, I think that's going to do it for tonight. I'm going to commit all these changes and then I'll make it better and make it work. No. Thank you for hanging out and watching us fuck with stuff. I think that was mostly okay. Stuff changed. It didn't like horrifically break. It just didn't quite perform as expected, which I'll take that over the alternative any day. So yeah, we'll figure it out. Hopefully before next time. And then we'll come back and do some more stuff. So until next week, next Thursday, presumably. See you later, Internet.
Bye.